It's not for girls, my brother said, loud enough for the entire shooting range to hear. Then he laughed. So did two of his friends. I stood behind the yellow safety line with my hands in the pockets of my old gray hoodie, watching Jackson Fulton wave his customized pistol around like it made him dangerous. He had the expensive gear, the tactical boots, the skull sticker on his truck, the slogans on his hat, the confidence of a man who had never been tested anywhere more frightening than an online comment section. And me? To my family, I was Olive Fulton, 41 years old, unmarried, quiet, and boring. The daughter who worked some desk job for the army. The one who counted supplies. The one who came home tired and never explained why. My mother believed I worked in logistics because that was what I let her believe. Her heart could not survive the truth. Stress brought on chest pains, and the last time she thought I had been in danger, she spent 2 nights in a hospital. So I became harmless for her. I became invisible. For 10 years, I let my family call me a warehouse clerk while I worked in places I still cannot describe. I let them joke that I spent my days counting socks and meal packets, while scars from Kandahar and Yemen stayed hidden under long sleeves. I let them think silence meant weakness. Until that Saturday morning at Patriot Range. Jackson had invited the family because he wanted to teach his teenage son, Leo, how real men handle firearms. He said it like he was passing down wisdom, but every time he touched the gun, my stomach tightened. His stance was wrong. His grip was wrong. His muzzle discipline was careless. And Leo was watching every mistake like it was gospel. "Olive," Jackson called, turning toward me with a grin. "You want to try? Or is this too much noise for the supply closet?" My mother frowned. "Jackson, don't start." He ignored her. "Come on, one magazine. I'll even stand behind you so you don't panic." I looked at Leo. He looked embarrassed for me. That hurt more than my brother's words. Because I could survive being underestimated by adults. But I could not stand there and let a boy learn that arrogance was the same thing as strength. "I'll shoot," I said. Jackson blinked, then laughed harder. "Seriously?" I stepped forward. The range owner, Gary, walked past the counter and froze when he saw me clearly. He was older now, heavier. But I knew the eyes of a man who had once lived inside the same kind of silence. He looked at me, then at the pistol bag in my hand. "Captain Fulton?" The whole room went quiet. Jackson frowned. "Captain?" I gave Gary the smallest shake of my head. "Not here. Not yet." Gary understood immediately. "Ma'am," he said softly. That one word changed the air. Jackson's smile slipped, but pride is a stubborn disease. He cleared his throat and said, "Well, if you're so official, let's see what you've got." He hung a fresh target at 7 yards. 7 yards. A distance for beginners. He handed me his $2,000 Glock like he was lending a bicycle to a child. I set it down. "I brought my own." From my bag, I took out my Glock 34, checked it cleanly, loaded 5 rounds, and stepped into position. The world became smaller. Not the room. Not Jackson. Not the laughter. Just breath. Grip. Front sight. Pressure. The calm place inside the storm. I heard one of Jackson's friends whisper, "This should be good." It was 5 shots. Less than 3 seconds. One hole. Dead center. The target barely moved except for the clean black opening where the rounds had gone through the same place. Nobody spoke. Even Jackson did not breathe for a second. Then Gary walked down range, looked at the target, and said, "Still doing paperwork. Olive?" I glanced at him. "Mostly." He snorted. Then he turned to my brother. "She doesn't count socks, son." Jackson's jaw tightened. "What is that supposed to mean?" Gary looked at me, asking permission without words. I was tired. Tired of hiding. Tired of being a joke in my own family. Tired of watching my nephew learn all the wrong things from the loudest man in the room. So I nodded. Gary's voice dropped. "Your sister is Captain Olive Fulton, Green Beret, JSOC, one of the finest precision shooters I ever saw come through the compound." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Leo stared at me like the world had tilted. Jackson laughed once, but there was no sound behind it. "That's impossible." "No," Gary said. "What's impossible is watching you lecture her about grip." A few people at the range turned away to hide their smiles. Jackson's face went red. I did not enjoy it. That surprised me. For years, I had imagined what it would feel like if my family finally knew. I thought there would be satisfaction, maybe even pride. But standing there in the smell of gun oil and burned powder, all I felt was old sadness. Because the truth had not made the years disappear. It had only shown how lonely they had been. My mother walked toward me slowly. "Olive," she whispered, "is it true?" I turned to her. I wanted to say no. I wanted to protect her heart again. But Leo was watching. And Jackson was watching. And something in me knew that protecting everyone from the truth had become another kind of prison. "Yes," I said. "It's true." Her eyes filled with tears. "All this time?" I nodded. "All this time?" Jackson found his voice again. "Why would you lie?" I looked at him. "Because Mom couldn't take it. Because classified work is not dinner conversation. Because every time I came home quiet, you made jokes instead of asking why." He looked away. For once, he had no speech ready. I turned to Leo and held out the unloaded pistol. "Do you want to learn?" He nodded carefully. I stepped behind him, not touching until he understood, and lowered my voice. "Strength does not start in your hands. It starts here." I tapped my temple. "Anyone can act loud. Real control is staying calm when your body wants fear, anger, or pride to take over." Jackson stood behind us, silent. That was new. I taught Leo stance first, then grip, then breathing. I made him set the gun down 3 times until his finger discipline was right. I corrected him gently because humiliation teaches nothing except shame. When he finally fired, his shots were not perfect. But they were safe. That mattered more. Afterward, outside near the trucks, Jackson caught up to me. His expensive boots scraped the gravel. "Olive." I stopped. He looked smaller without the audience. "I didn't know." "No," I said. "You didn't ask." He flinched. My mother sat in the car, pale but steady, watching us through the windshield. Jackson swallowed. "I thought you were wasting your life." "I know. I thought I was the strong one." I looked at his truck, the stickers, the performance of toughness he had built around himself like armor. "Jackson, strength is not decoration." His eyes dropped. For a long moment, we only heard distant gunfire from inside the range. Then he said quietly, "I'm sorry. I had waited years for that." But apologies are not magic. They do not repair a decade in one breath. So I gave him the only truth I had. "You don't get to explain my life to me anymore. You don't get to mock what you never bothered to understand. And you never teach Leo that being a man means being careless, cruel, or loud. He nodded. This time, he did not argue. A week later, Leo called me. Not Jackson. Leo! Aunt Olive, he said. Can you teach me again? Dad said I should ask you. I sat alone in my apartment, looking at the old duffel bag by my closet, the one full of things my family still did not know how to name. For a second, I felt the familiar ache of two lives pulling at me. Then I smiled. Yes, I said, but we start with safety. He laughed. I know. Strength starts here. I closed my eyes. Maybe that was how things changed. Not with one perfect shot. Not with one exposed identity. But with a boy learning that real power does not need to shout. My family never fully understood what I had done overseas. Maybe they never would. Some parts of service are not meant to be carried by people who stayed home. But after that day, my mother stopped calling my job boring. Jackson stopped making jokes. And when Leo looked at me, he no longer saw the quiet aunt who counted supplies. He saw someone who had chosen silence for love. Someone who had carried danger without turning it into performance. Someone who finally stood up, not to embarrass a man, but to protect a boy from becoming one. That is the thing about being underestimated. At first, it hurts. Then it teaches you discipline. And one day, when the moment comes, you do not need to shout. You just breathe, aim, and let the truth pass cleanly through the center.